thought you might bump us by an hour so you could watch Superman. You were blowing your wad over.
Yeah, I forgot it was on, so I'm gonna have to stream it on the CW tomorrow.
That's what I'm gonna do as well.
I don't know what that is. Is that a free
Yeah,
streaming service? It better be free. Okay.
yeah. You don't even have to download anything. If you just go to cw.tv.
Oh, but I can download something if I want to. Do you know?
Yeah, there's an app.
I on my Roku or whatever I can.
Yeah, there's an app for that. Yeah, I have it on
There's an app for that.
I have it on my Fire Stick. So I have it on my Amazon. So yeah, there's an app for that.
Yeah, you tweeted me that little bit that Jay posted that sprung my spring, and now I got to watch it.
Yeah,
it's 2 hours though. That's a bit of a commitment.
Well, just do it over a couple days, and I'm sure you'll find something to hate about it like 10 minutes in. So you probably won't watch the whole thing.
I do have an issue with the cape. I think everybody does.
Is it too short?
Not the cape. It's the collar.
Collar's too tight.
It's right around his neck.
Yeah. You and Mitch Garrett's.
Let me see those.
Collarbones.
What are they?
Collarbones?
Belts or whatever?
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, you and Mitch should start
know the muscles. I don't have them.
You guys should start a petition or get resist spot on the thing, because Mitch was bitching about it as well last week on Twitter, which is where comic pros go to bitch. Speaking about comic book pros on Twitter.
Yeah.
Jay Gonzo got us.
It's fine though.
Got us today's beers, or tonight's beers, as it were.
Oh yeah.
So these week's beers are brought to us by La Mano del Destino creator Jay Gonzo. Gonzo brought me these for my birthday. And since I had duplicates of everything, I thought it'd be fun to share with my comic book BFF on our podcast. You can go to your favorite comic book shop right now and tell them you want to order the La Mano del Destino trade paperback. It's available through Top Cow and Image. It's in previews right now. So if you missed his successful Kickstarter, now's your chance to hop on that bandwagon. So these are Hitachino Nest beers from Kyuchi Brewing in Nakashi, Ibaraki, Japan, which is northwest of Tokyo. I was
expecting more out of you.
Yeah, I know. Hitachino might mean owl because the owls both beers have an owl on them. So maybe that's what it means. So yeah, I thought I could say this better. Nakashi Ibaraki. Nakashi Ibaraki, Japan. So the first beer, and I'm going to pour these because I think one of them is supposed to be red. So the first one, Dai, is ale brewed with Fukure Mikan oranges, 6%. It says it's an IPA, but it says ale in every other description. So who knows? But Luca,
maybe a pale ale,
yeah. Luca on Untapped says, right on style with the piney and woody undertones that bring up the malty and caramelly body of this balanced brew.
What?
Pleasant.
That ain't no IPA I ever tasted.
I know. Let's have a look at the Dai.
Brewed with a Japanese wild bred mandarin orange.
BRED, not bread like BREAD.
A great amount of malty umami taste complements the fruity citrus flavor with a U. Is that how they translate flavor?
That's how the rest. That's how the rest of the world spells flavor.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I thought that was a UK thing.
No, I think it's the rest of the world, like color, flavor, other words that it.
Oh, so we just spelled it wrong and doubled down on it.
Yeah, we refuse to be corrected by some French Canadian back in the fur trapping days. So the Dai does look a little orange, or the Day. I don't know. It's very orangey. It almost looks like Tang. My nose is failing me today. I don't think it's COVID, though. I think it's just letting me down tonight.
Oh, yeah. I've got a big orange hit on the nose for sure.
Ooh, wow.
Oh, it's foaming.
It is. It's fragrant.
I'm not super familiar with umami, so I would not be able to put my finger on it if there are notes of it here.
I
can tell you it's quite hoppy and quite citrusy.
Yeah, umami's a thing that came about in the last like 20 years, and it's supposed to be like delicious, like a taste bud that is just delicious.
It might be there. There's something there besides the hops and the orange.
Yeah, they're not afraid of flavor at Hitachino Nest. Okay. And then our next one is Red Rice Ale, which I'm a little terrified of.
Are we doing both right now?
Oh, you want to finish one and then do the next one?
I mean,
I don't have.
I'll double fist it if you want.
Yeah, I don't have a fridge, so I'm going to crack both mine and just bounce around. You could do whatever you want. I'm not your dad. The hot Hitachino Nest Red Rice Ale brewed with red rice, 7%. So this one's stronger, even though the orange one is an IPA. But then Luca, also on Untapped, good source here. He says it's malty on the nose. On the sip, you'll find a fruity, almost cherry-like sweetness. A bit too much of it, though. Accompanying it, hints of licorice and constant malty undertones. Finally, leaves hay and bread notes. A bit difficult, but fun.
A bit difficult, but fun.
I sense a challenge. It's like a Brian Hitch double-page spread if you had to ink or color it. It's going to be difficult, but when you're done...
I think that's on my Twitter profile.
Yeah. Ooh, wow.
Red Rice Ale. A beautiful pink-colored ale brewed with an ancient red rice. I'm not going to try that. This ale has a moderated bitterness and pleasant acidity with a hint of fruits on the nose and palate. That's also part of my Twitter profile. Moderated bitterness and pleasant acidity.
I will say on first, it's not very pink in the glass. It's barely even red. It looks like pine tar almost. But it does have a smell that I couldn't place if the world depended on it. I couldn't tell you what the smells like.
That's dirty diapers.
Is that what that is?
That shit is.
Is that what it is? It's a bad night at the club?
Oh my God. I do not want to put this in my mouth.
It's like the back of a
This smells awful.
Back of a London taxi cab at 3 a.m.
Oh. Does it translate?
Doesn't taste bad. It's almost like a sour or a Belgian.
God damn it. I wish I hadn't smelled it.
You know what? If I had $1 for every time I wish I hadn't smelled something, I'd have like $4. So there we are. Thanks, Gonzo, for the beer. There was a third one in the mix, but I didn't share that with Scott. I'm going to drink that later because I can only do so much. I felt like 2 beers was 1 beer too many. What's going on in the brain of yours? What gears are turning?
Yeah, the smell does not translate to the palate. It is so crazy bad on the nose.
Some of it might be because you're sniffing it out of the can. When I sniff it out of the glass, it's not as bad. It needs air, I think.
It's concentrated then.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's almost got like a soda-y aftertaste. On first sip, I would describe it as like just like a beefier Budweiser. It's got sort of the same flavor notes, just more.
Cool.
And those are flavorless, so it's weird. This is just double flavorless, but somehow it's more flavorful. It doesn't make sense.
Well,
Jesus fucking God.
We'll get through it together.
I'm smelling this, and then I'm just imagining you pick up the kid, and his bottom squishes against your arm. And God damn it! Guess we're going to the bathroom.
I hadn't experienced that in about, I don't know, 15 years. And then when we were in Okinawa, one of my friends has a youngin, and I picked him up, and that happened on my arm. And I had forgotten what that was like. It had been like 13, 14 years
It's
since that
terrible.
had happened. And my friend's wife was so like apologetic. And I was like, what are you going to do? Like, it's not your fault that your
No,
kid,
I mean,
it's not your fault that your piece of shit
it's
kid
not that bad.
can't go to the bathroom, you know?
Yeah. I mean, poopy or wet diapers are one thing, but like blowouts where it runs up their back somehow, like the anti-gravity shits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like behind their ear, but they're sitting upright, like in a car seat.
Yeah. What the?
It's like the Venom symbiote came out of their ass and is just crawling towards your brain. And the worst is, I remember driving, and no matter how loud the music is, or you could have the windows down, whatever, you could always hear it. Like that squirt sound, just that squirt sound associates with a whole change of clothes, an entire body wipe down of wipes in like a Target parking lot. Your whole day is ruined at that point, but you still got to go get like
you got to strip
animal crackers,
the cover off of the car seat and wash it.
Yeah. Just throw it in a dumpster and set it on fire. All right. So,
but it's not that bad.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
It's fine.
Best things of our lives. But it's a gift, so you have to drink both beers. I did get some comics today. I'm going to breeze through real quick. I got another Brett Booth drawn comic book, X-Men Legends #1, is set in the 90s in continuity, but it's a whole new story. And it's about I don't know if is he on the cover? He is on the cover, but he's hidden by Havoc. But it focuses on Adam X, the Extreme.
There he is.
He can ignite blood once it's oxygenated.
Rocking the backward cap.
Yeah. So what he does is he nicks people with his little knives, and then he ignites their blood. Whatever the fuck that means.
Cool.
Yeah. So this is my second.
Bloodfire.
This is
How's this name not Bloodfire?
I don't know. But this is my second Brett Booth X-Men comic in the span of a couple weeks. And as much as I like the 90s and as much as I like Brett Booth, it might be too much Brett Booth for the month of February.
The resolution on my camera is so bad. Who's the writer?
Oh, Fabian Nicieza.
Okay.
But yeah, it is. There's a lot going on in these pages. Lots of hatching, lots of noise. And like I said, it's fun as shit. It's very 90s. But I don't know if I'm going to be sticking with X-Men Legends throughout its run. We'll have to see. It does have the Starjammers in it. Spoiler alert, I'm a sucker for Corsair and the Starjammers.
Of course it does. If you're going to have Havoc, Cyclops, and Adam X.
Right, was it common knowledge? Again, spoiler alert if anyone's going to listen to this.
Papa Summers in there.
So was it common knowledge before this book that Adam X was a Summers?
That's like the only thing I remember about him.
Okay, so this was common knowledge. But then there's another Summers brother who's called like Praetorian or something, or some weird shit. He wears like a cape and shit. So there's like 4 Summers brothers.
Wait, who's Mr. Sinister? He's some relation, right?
I think he's like a long ago. I have a page from that book behind me at J. Paul Leon, right there. He's like
Mr. Sinister and Apocalypse are kind of in the same boat for me. Like villain wise, I always thought their power set was just kind of ambiguous.
Right. Yeah, who gives a shit? But yeah, there's too many Summers running around. But this does feature the best Summers, and it's Nathan Dayspring Summers.
Oh,
and he's old and perfect in this, not young and piece of shitty. So yeah, if you love Cable like I love Cable, X-Men Legends #1. No, X-Man I think is from another dimension, but he is still a Summers. All right, moving on. I thought about picking this
Mark
up.
Summers.
Yes, summer school. Wait, that's funny.
No,
Mark
Double
Summers
Dare.
Wait, wasn't he in summer school?
No.
Oh, who's that? He's the guy from Harmon. We were just talking about this last week.
Determined that was Dan Harmon.
Dan Harmon, right. Created Ren and Stimpy or something.
Yeah, creator of Community was in summer school.
Right. And then this is a book that I meant to pick up but didn't Came out last month, and it's Future State.
Mark Harmon.
Mark Harmon. Future State Legion of Superheroes #1. It's a Future State Legion book, but a lot of the characters
Mark
are just
Harmon is
Legion
Dan
characters.
Harmon is
Angie
Mark
Harmon's
Summers
mother.
and of Angie's List.
Right. Brian Bendis, Riley Rossmo, Ivan Placencia. Yeah, I mean it's basically Legion, so the characters are the same because it takes place super far in the future. But it's pretty cool. I like Riley Rossmo's art. It's pretty fun. It's like a big, expansive team book full of adventure. Highly recommended. I will go back next week and pick up Legion of Superheroes #2. Corey, if you're listening to this, put that in my hold box, please. And then last but certainly not least, House of L, Superman House of L. I don't want to say #1 because, I mean, it is #1, but it's
one of one.
One of one. Beautiful book. Has my all-time favorite DC character in it, Black Racer.
The whole series.
Yeah. I've been dying for more.
For the Black Racer completist.
Yeah, I've been dying for some Black Racer shit, and sure enough, there's a future version of Black Racer in there. And you know it because someone yells Black Racer really loud. But yeah, great. Lots of cool super
well, without the
characters.
skis, you wouldn't know.
Yeah. But a lot of cool characters designed by you. A fun book. 48 pages for a measly $6. That's like getting like 20 pages for free. I don't know how math works.
It's 8 pages a buck.
Get it. Superman, House of L. And then there's also ads. I guess they're trying to make House of L a thing because there's ads for a young adult graphic novel series.
House there's a book.
Oh, is it a book?
I guess.
Book? Oh,
I don't know. It's a thing. Oh. Which one is this? Red Rice?
I recommend finishing Red Rice before it gets warm.
Yeah. I also recommend a clothespin.
Yeah. Do you have any, now that it's out, do you have any feedback from House of L? Do you have any favorite scenes in it? Favorite characters you designed? Fond memories? Or was it all just deadline, holiday crunch misery?
No, I enjoyed my time in that Sanctuary, right? I think that's the name of the place. Yeah, no, good time. Dug it. Everybody's great to work with. I got to draw Doomsdays. That was cool.
Yeah, you get to draw some
Old Man Soup.
Yeah, fourth world shit.
Yeah, I got I can add a Yannick Paquette cover to my inventory of books. I've got a Lee Weeks cover, and now I've got a Yannick Paquette cover. I'm crossing them off of my list. I have nothing to do with this, but
right.
Yeah.
That's for the best. That they leave you out of those decisions.
Oh, is it?
of who draws the covers for your books. Because then Brett Booth would not be drawing X-Men comics. He'd be drawing covers for Superman. And ooh, imagine a Brett Booth penciled cover inked by Kevin Nolan.
That would be something.
That would definitely be something. The Red Rice Ale is something.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe somebody like Joe Quesada. I'm trying to imagine the most complex sort of pencils he's ever worked on, and I don't know his entire library of things. Right. But I can imagine him sitting down and looking at a Brett Booth page and just going, no, we're not doing this.
Right.
I'm doing this instead.
Right. Well, you can do that if you're Kevin Nolan. You can make those decisions.
That's what you hire him for.
Right. You've earned that right. Right. All right. But yeah, everyone should check out House of L. It's you and Philip K. Johnson that's going to lead into you and Philip K. Johnson on 3 issues of Action Comics or Superman?
Superman.
I can't ever remember that. All right, Superman. Cool.
Yeah, I've only ever done Superman. I still have not done Action proper.
And you've never done Detective. You've only done Batman?
I've done Detective, but I haven't done Batman.
Oh, well, Detective's the older
I don't
one,
know if that's in my wheelhouse anymore. I don't know if I could...
Batman?
If I would be a choice for Batman, yeah.
I don't know. I'm sure they'll put you on Justice League by the end of the year, and then you'll have to draw Batman. All right, and then I did notice, if you remember a couple of weeks ago, when we were talking about all the future state stuff, I was saying how cool would it be if they revisited some of these later on, or if they kept a couple books going. I did notice that they're going past the 2 months they were slated. Like there's a future state Gotham book scheduled for like May.
Oh,
so
neat.
It'd be cool to see one shots every once in a while, maybe in this vein, like the House of L one shots or.
Yeah, I may or may not know something about that.
Ooh, you didn't hear it first because you're not supposed to.
I didn't say it.
Yeah, you didn't say anything. I definitely don't know anything, and I talk with you every day, so now you're keeping secrets from me. But today, because we didn't have a topic and because we're drinking these delicious Japanese beers, I thought maybe we'll discuss something that neither of us have any knowledge of, I assume, and that's manga. But I guess you're surprising me all the time. You're holding out secrets on me. Now, maybe you're a huge manga guy.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to read.
I know jack and shit about manga.
Oh, good. So let me educate you. This is from a site called Wikipedia.
Learn
and
me.
It says, pardon my French, manga are comics. Actually, when I was at the store today at Cab Comics, I said manga, and Corey said, please don't call it manga. So manga are comics or graphic novels originating from Japan. Most manga conform to a style developed in Japan in the late 19th century, and the form has a long prehistory in earlier Japanese art. The term manga is used in Japan to refer to both comics and cartooning. So if we were in the land of the...
but not cartoons.
No, that's anime.
Animation is anime.
Right. So if
this is weird. Yeah.
If you and I were in Japan doing a tour of Japan's best breweries, like Kuichi, people would call us mangakas, I think. Cartoonists is like people who make manga. I think that's what they would call us. If they called us anything.
Mangakas.
I think that's the name for like a cartoon. Like manga is cartooning, but I think maybe I could be making that up. I feel like I read
Japanese for cracker.
Gaijin. That's Japanese for
this is weird because my 10-year-old came home today and said, "Hey, I volunteered to do a presentation tomorrow in class. A friend of mine and I are going to make a PowerPoint, and we're going to explain to the class why Pokemon is anime and not a cartoon." So for the last hour before I put them down for bed, they were going over this presentation and trying to argue that Pokemon is not a cartoon, it's anime. And it was like watching Fox News. I was being told that this thing that I know is true is not true. I kept trying to explain. It's like all bourbon is whiskey, but not all whiskey is bourbon. I was trying to put this in terms my 10-year-old would understand.
He's a big whiskey drinker.
If you had if you're going to argue Pokemon isn't just a cartoon, it's anime,
also, right?
Then we have something. But you can't do this. It is also a cartoon, but it's also anime. It's these two different things, and they would not have it. And for an hour, they went over this presentation like 7 or 8 times.
You should see if you get.
By the end, I was just like, "It's great. I'm glad you're so enthused about this, and I hope everybody enjoys it." And everybody's going to appreciate it because they won't be mathing during the time my 10-year-old is yelling at everybody that Pokemon is anime.
Yeah, hopefully there's a way to export PowerPoint as a MP4 and I'll upload it to our YouTube channel. Put it up for the patrons.
Oh,
Your son's presentation. Education.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'll get it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we'll put it up.
so I guess we could get into that. Did you ever growing up, did you ever read manga? Let's start with manga and then we'll go into
No,
Japanese cartoons.
no. I was aware of Akira, but that was the only one I knew by name.
But you were aware of that because of the anime, not because of the manga.
Yes, but
Right.
I was aware that it was a manga,
Mm.
though I had never actually seen it in person.
Right.
Yeah. But no, I had, well, I guess I had probably seen some Lone Wolf and Cub stuff and some Wizard at some point.
Yeah, that doesn't count because it's
what else?
yeah.
Yeah, those are still to this day the only two I can name.
All right.
I don't know any other ones.
Yeah, right now someone's throwing their computer against the wall because I said Lone Wolf and Cub doesn't count. I didn't mean that it didn't count as manga. I think the Dark Horse versions were. I don't think you read those back to front the way you read manga. It was more repackaged.
It's Americanized.
Yeah. So
It's like Taco Bell.
sorry, weirdo. Right. Which it's fine on its own, but don't say it's Mexican food. Don't say Lone Wolf and Cub is traditional Japanese manga if you're reading the Dark Horse versions with Frank Miller covers. Anyways, yeah, that kid's pissed at me right now.
Learn me some more.
Yeah, so I never really got into it, but growing up in Okinawa, I did pick up I would pick up Shonen Jump, like Weekly Shonen Jump, or I'd pick up we would call them graphic novels or trades, the collections of Dragon Ball. I really like Battle Angel Alita. That was really drawn well. But obviously I could never really read them because they were in Japanese. So I would just buy them and look at the art and then try to figure out what the fuck was happening, which wasn't always easy because you're reading opposite as I would read American comics. Right. So sometimes I would get confused. But yeah, I always liked the look of them. And then you get what else? There's a magazine called New Type back in the day that was like anime, manga, and models, like Gundam models and shit. That was great because it would have 10 pages of comics in it, and then pictures of models, not models.
I had those magazines too.
Yeah, you know what I mean, like Gundam models, what do you call them? They still do them. Like car models, but they're robots that transform and shit. Come on.
Yeah, the mechs.
Yeah, mechs. That's what I'm talking about. Pacific Rim. So I would get all these magazines and all these comics, but I would just be able to look at them because I couldn't read any of it. But the same with anime. I would watch every week. I would watch Dragon Ball on the TV on the Japanese station, but it was all in Japanese, so I just have to guess what was happening. And a lot of Dragon Ball, I don't know if you've watched it or if your kids have ever watched it, but there's a lot of them standing around talking for 23 minutes, and then an energy ball is thrown, and then it's next week on Dragon Ball. So I'd have to go to school the next day and be I think this is what happened, and they're yeah, that's what happened. And then I would, when I moved to the States, I did for a period of a month, I did watch dubbed animes or subtitled animes like Ninja Scroll and shit like that. But it just never, I don't know what it is. I like comics, and I like Batman the animated series and shit like that. I don't love anime, and I don't love manga. Did you ever get into an anime phase, in your early 20s?
I remember watching something. I don't remember how old I was now. Maybe I was in junior high. Oh, God. I wish I could remember the name of this thing. There was something on one of the local stations. I'm straining even to try to remember what it looked like. I think it was some sort of something Nights. Yeah, I don't remember the name of it. I mean, yeah, but other than that one that obviously had a huge influence on me, I never watched like a Voltron or Dragon Ball or um, whatever any of the other
Yeah, I mean,
popular ones were that made it over here. I mean, it's weird because I took Japanese for 2 years in high school, and we watched Akira in class. Um, but that right there really is my only exposure to anything in that ballpark, anime or manga. And it's my 10-year-old is putting on this presentation. They were starting. I kept saying to them, "You're not starting. You're skipping the first step. First, you need to define what anime is before you can tell me what isn't and what is." And so they were going into the traditional style of anime. It's got expressive mouths and pointy heads, and I think one of the things they mentioned was blush lines. And I was looking at the description, like the written description, and thinking, "Oh my god, this is what I do." So I had mentioned there's probably a anime or a manga influence in my stuff that's secondhand influence because I'm influenced by guys who are influenced by that stuff.
yeah, yeah. Your current influences that I can see, like John Timms and Clayton Henry, they're probably big manga guys at some point in their lives. Yeah, I didn't even think about like I guess most of the anime I watched before I ever when I was a little kid before I ever went to Okinawa and didn't even realize it was anime or Japanimation is what it used to be called back in the day.
Yeah.
But yeah, like Voltron, G-Force, which I think was called Battle of the Planets here. Like that shit's great, but there are a bunch of people dressed like birds, like they're wearing suits that make them look like
Yeah.
birds.
Yeah.
But it's fucking great.
Yeah, I love those costumes.
Yeah, it's cool, but I never really thought about it. But they're just repurposed. Like even Transformers, I think originally was like a repurposed like Japanese show, or maybe that's GoBots. Who knows? I'm sure some dork will tell me. Um, but
I'm
yeah, I have it.
Googling right now the
What?
thing that
Okay.
I think I watched. And
Oh, excellent.
yeah,
Good,
go ahead.
it's a good thing you didn't do
I'll
this.
let you know if I come across it
It's a good
here.
thing you didn't do this before the show started.
I didn't know what we were doing, asshole.
No, I mentioned it several times. Uh, but yeah, so like I just never. I mean, I really grew out of it. I don't ever even consider it now. Like every time I move and I have to repurpose my comic book boxes and move them somewhere else, I will come across like a small like collected edition of like Battle Angel Elite or something, and I'll flip through it. And it's super rad, but again, I can't understand it. I tried to watch the
Yeah,
Robert Rodriguez movie, and it was terrible.
I might read some stuff now if I came across something that I thought was interesting. And one of the things that I've read about manga is that I think the stereotype, especially for Westerners, is that you just think of like Sailor Moon or giant robots or something. But it actually, like American comics, it runs the gamut of genres, and there's a manga for everybody.
Yeah, like they're one of the real popular ones when I was in high school that was in Shonen Jump alongside Dragon Ball was called Slam Dunk, and it was just about a high school basketball team. And like there's manga that run for like 20 years about like baseball teams and softball teams and shit. Like it'd be the most boringest shit ever to fucking draw. But yeah, like my friend's wife, who is not at all geeky or looks like she'd be into comics or anything like that. She's Japanese and she has an entire bookshelf in their basement or like their guest room dedicated to manga. Like it's huge. She must have hundreds of volumes. And she rereads the same ones, her favorite series. She'll reread them all the times, the way I devour like Harry Potter and shit. Sometimes her and her friends read them as part of like a book club. Like they'll get together online and talk about like the new volume of whatever manga they're reading.
Sure.
Like I've seen her like come up, like get out of a chair from reading one, and she has like tears in her eyes and shit. And I'm like,
Wow.
I've never read anything that moving, and I'll never create anything that moving that someone will cry. And my buddy's like, oh, she cries every time she reads that one. Like she already knows what's going to happen. It's just so emotional. It's nuts because you would never know that this wonderful woman has like a stash of comics in her basement, essentially. It'd be like my wife, like going home and just reading fucking, Why the Last Man over and over again or something. It seems ridiculous, but to the Japanese, it's normal. Like everyone there. I mean, I lived there.
That's great.
Yeah, I lived there before smartphones, so I don't know what it's like now. But when I was there and you would take a bus somewhere or get on a train, if you're in mainland Japan, you get on a train, everyone was reading manga. Like 80-year-old men, 10-year-old kids, everyone had, a volume of something with them. And it just never, that love for comics never took off here for whatever reason.
Yeah, I think about like the early comics, like pre and post World War II, or Shazam or Captain Marvel or what the fuck ever is selling, like 3 million copies every issue. Yeah, that's probably as close as we got. But it was all, I mean, Don Draper's not reading. It wasn't a thing that was socially acceptable over all of the age groups.
Yeah, and I think part of it has to do with the size. They're portable. You could put them in a pocket. It's almost they're the collected volumes are obviously like mini little trades. So it's like there's something about reading something that looks like a book. Looks like a book rather than a floppy comic that is unwieldy.
I knew people that read Archie Digest that didn't read any other comics.
Right. Yeah.
Must have been for that reason.
Yeah, and my wife's friend, she one time when I was in Seattle for Emerald City Con, they had to bring me, not to brag, but I was selling out of shit, and they had to bring me stuff from the house and from the print shop, and she had zero interest in anything going on there that was American comics, but anything that was like manga or anime, would catch her eye. Like, but she had no fucking time for anything else. But I don't blame her. I guess it's like me saying I have no time for manga. Like,
yeah, and the ignorant American part of me is going to say that I can't tell any of it apart offhand.
You mean they all look the same to you?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. Whereas I can look at, American comics or traditional comics. You're throwing all the UK and the European stuff, and,
right?
I can pick specific artists out, and I'm sure fans of manga can do the same. I would imagine maybe it's a little more difficult.
No, it's like this thing that my wife and I saw on TV where they asked. It was during the civil rights protests last year, and they had like a group of like white people on a panel, and they said describe the assailant, and then someone described the assailant, and then they showed like these white people, like 6 different African Americans, and all the white people were like, yeah, they all fit that description. And then they had like a panel of African Americans on, and they showed the African Americans the same 6 photos, and they're like, that guy looks nothing like that guy, and that guy's hair is totally different, his nose is totally different. And my wife's like, oh, we're just conditioned to just
stop at that specific identifier.
Yeah, like we don't ever look further because we identify them by the color of their skin. We never go further, like, or anything like that. So it's probably the same like that. I would bet that my friends who read manga have no problem picking out their favorite artists and shit
Yeah,
like that.
yeah, and yeah. So yeah,
Yeah,
you can cut that out.
I'm not editing
I
anything.
did find it was Ronin Warriors was the one show that I
Ronin Warriors or
watched.
Shogun Warriors?
No, Ronin.
Oh,
Ronin Warriors. What does it say here? It aired for a total of 39 episodes. I can't imagine I even watched all of those. I probably saw it on TV one day and thought, oh, this is the thing that all the people at the comic book store like because it looks like that. So I guess I'll watch it.
right.
But
I
I couldn't tell you a goddamn thing about it.
Makes me think it might have just been a repackage of Shogun Warriors, which was
Oh,
very,
possibly.
very popular back in the day.
Known in Japan as legendary armor samurai troopers. It's like they just drew things out of a hat and put it in to the title.
Sure the translation isn't as literal as we're making it sound. I did pull up these numbers that because I know again from living over there when I was in high school how much more common it is. Like I went through my entire like kindergarten through 8th grade kind of diving in and out of comics and reading comics and liking comics, and I never knew someone else who read comics. And then when I moved to Okinawa, everyone read manga. Like all my friends watched Dragon Ball. They all read manga, or they all at least knew what the popular manga was. We all stole Weekly Shonen Jumps individually. You know, we'd all steal them every week when they came out. Sorry, Mom. So it's like everyone there had a base knowledge of comics and of cartoons, whereas it wasn't like that in the States. So I know that manga
Animaniacs here.
Yeah. So I know that they outsell American comics or Western comics by a ton, but I did pull up a number that I find fascinating.
If only Muppet Babies had a black and white digest sized book at the checkout.
I used to watch the shit out of Muppet Babies and Animaniacs. All right, so in 2019, the number one selling comic was Detective Comics 1000. We have an episode that came out around then because you came up to Flagstaff and we did a midnight signing at Cab Comics.
Oh, right.
Even though neither of us had anything to do with Detective Comics number 1000.
But comics.
But comics is part of it. Detective Comics.
Thanks, Corey.
We're both part-time detectives. We're both full-time comicers. But yeah, so that in 2019, that sold 526,000 copies, almost 527,000 copies. And it was like the best-selling comic in like 20 years. That same year, some comic called Demon Slayer: Kimetsu no Yaiba in Japan in 2019. Guess how many copies it sold?
Ooh.
If Detective Comics sold 527,000, how many did Demon Slayer Kimetsu no Yaiba sell in Japan?
5 million plus.
12,057,000 copies.
I was right.
And if it's one of their little collections, it probably didn't cost as much as because Detective Comics 1000 was like a $10 comic.
Holy balls.
But still, 12 million copies, and that's just of one volume of this thing. But before you say that, a lot of mangakas, if I'm saying that wrong, I'm sure I am.
You're saying it like a mangaka.
Yeah, I know. I'm doing a mangaka all over my desk just thinking about it. But I think they have to produce like 37 pages a week to keep up with the demand. So they have like background guys. They have studios. They have background guys. So another thing I pulled up, I keep talking about Weekly Shonen Jump, which was essentially a black and white newsprint anthology. It wasn't black and white because every story was kind of tinted. So if you just flip through, you could see when a new story started. So you'd have like a rose tinted newsprint. Yeah, I could be wrong about that too, but I kind of have a vague remembrance of that. But it was super thin newsprint. They were like little tiny phone books. I guess what the phone book of like Missoula, Montana would be. Just a couple inches thick. We're not talking about like a
Sure.
Phoenix. They'd come out every week. According to Wikipedia, they currently have 22 comics serialized in Weekly Shonen Jump. So what they do is they serialize 10 to 20 pages every week, and then when the story's done, they put them in trades, and that's where you see like the Dragon Ball trades and shit. So anyways, between 1985 and 1995, which I lived there in those years, Weekly Shonen Jump had like Dragon Ball. I'm not sure what the other big series were, Slam Dunk and shit going on. It would sell over 6 million copies a week. 6 million copies a week. They claim to have had 18 million regular readers.
Wow.
Of essentially a comic anthology on newsprint.
That's awesome.
And as of 2019, it still sold over 1.6 million per week, which isn't bad considering people are probably looking at them on their phones. And the best part about it is, even today, it costs less than 300 yen. So it costs about $3 to get like 400 to 500 pages of comic books a week. Think about that. What I paid for a Brett Booth drawn X-Men Legends #1, less than what I paid for X-Men Legends #1. I could have got 500 pages of manga. And as much as I dislike anthologies, because you always get like shit you don't want to read, if there's 22 series being serialized, you're bound to like 8 or 9 of them for $3 a week. Just odds.
Yeah, I can't even begin to speculate intelligently on the differences in culture and what would make this thing in print so much more popular than consuming something on TV or streaming or video games or.
Yeah, but even just why is it so? What is it about Western culture? I guess not even Western culture, because comics in Europe are, everyone reads them. What is it about American culture that you're frowned upon if you're reading a comic in public, or some douchebag in Abercrombie and Fitch and like a shitty like satchel is gonna give me cross-eyed. He's wearing socks and sandals, but he's gonna give me a cross-eyed look because I'm reading a fucking X-Men
I don't know. I don't know where that happened. At some point, it seems that somebody made the case that it was just for kids, whether that was publishers themselves deciding that this is where we're going to go. I don't know how much influence something like the Wortham case against comics and public delinquency and that sort of shit. I don't know how much that tainted like the public image. I don't know. I have no idea. I mean, because you go and you pick up any big 2 book and you could make an argument for 90% of them that they are not written for the audience that the general public would imagine they're written for.
Yeah. Some of it might just be like we're a culture obsessed with how we're perceived. So it's like if you're in a waiting room full of people and somebody's reading Watchmen, you're like, oh, that guy knows his shit. But if right next to him, or if they're reading Bone, if a kid's reading Bone, you're like, oh, his parents get it, But if right next to them, I'm just reading like Superman House of L Future State floppy, they're going to be like, oh, look at that grown guy reading like comic books. Like at some point we delineated between a comic book, a graphic novel. We got snobbish about graphic novels. Then we got more snobbish about certain graphic novels. Like if I was reading Moz, like Pulitzer Prize winning Moz, people would be like, "Oh, he must be a fucking college professor."
Sure. Yeah, and at some point in the history of production, the industry went down a road in production or distribution that priced them out of competitive entertainment.
Yes. Yeah, like yeah. When I wasn't doing the 5 finger discount on comics in Okinawa, you could buy a trade of a couple hundred black and white pages for less than $5. When I made
Yeah, that's I mean, yeah, that's collection stuff, right? So
right,
the printer, publisher, whatever, has already made their money on first run stuff. The
right, but
creator's been
right,
paid based on first run stuff.
but it's
You can do collection reprints for dirt cheap.
right, but they never got away from the newsprint model like American comics did. So I think with newsprint comics and newsprint trades, they're they're cheap and they're thought of as being disposable. You read it, you give it to somebody else. You don't. I mean, you collect them because everybody I know that reads them collects them, sure. But
Sure.
you don't have to. They can be something that can be just left behind on a bus when you're done reading it,
Yeah.
or
Do you
something
think
like
there's
that.
a market in America for that kind of material? If they could put out um, a 30-page black and white Batman comic every week, do you think that they could sell it for $1.50 or $2 and move it in the volume that they would need to move it in order for it to be?
No, because I think it needs to be more. I think it needs to be 200 pages a month or
No, then
150.
do 200 pages a month.
Yeah, for $6 or for $7.
Do you
Uh,
think that that's possible? Do you think that there's
not
an appetite for something like that, or do you think
not for superhero
we're too
comics.
far down the road of being conditioned to have it a certain way?
Right, not for superhero comics. You could make an inroad with horror comics, I think, and with true crime comics because like everyone and their mother watches true crime
Okay,
shows.
so in Japan, where are you getting these books?
Oh, everywhere. I mean, they still have newsstands on every corner.
Okay,
So
that's much different.
yeah, so I mean, you can get them at every convenience store, every Family Mart, every Lawson's. You can get them at corner bookstores. You can get them at like art supply stores, like regular bookstores. Like that's the thing is they never. And I think maybe it could be because of the push. At some point 30, 40, 50 years ago, someone decided that American comic books were superhero books and only superhero books. And that correlation or that definition never applied to manga. So like a businessman doesn't feel weird. I mean, he should feel weird depending on what he's reading, but he doesn't feel weird like just going into a store and buying a comic because they might have one that's equivalent to like a TV show like Mad Men. They could have a comic that's just an office place, essentially soap opera in comic book form, and it was never denigrated by like the mass public there to be something that is frowned upon. Like they read manga the same way, like they read manga the same way people in the states just read books, and it's not. There's no difference. They would never look at a 55-year-old businessman who was reading a manga any differently than if he was reading like a novel. Like it's all the same there. It's so ingrained. It's so normal.
Huh.
But I think that's part of it. Is it was never like we were told comics were for kids. You roll them up, you put them in your back pocket, you go out and play. Like comics are for kids. Like I never saw an adult read a comic book until I
I
was an
guess.
adult reading comic books.
I, I mean, yeah, I suppose so. That's yeah, I think you're right. At some point, mainstream American comics put all their eggs in that one basket because I can't imagine that there's not a manga that's aimed at that sliver of an audience, right? There's got to be books that cater to 8 to 12-year-old robot adventure things.
There are, but I was in cab today, and obviously, how many times can I shout out that store? Uh, and I said, "Hey, we're going to talk about this tonight. What do you sell? What's popular here?" And they got the One Punch, and they got or not one, yeah, One Punch Man, I think it's called, whatever. And then there's One Piece and like Naruto and shit. But he was telling me their best selling manga is like from a guy. Oh Jesus! Hang on, I'm going to pull it up because I'm going to get the name wrong. And it's an interesting thing because when I asked him what it was, he didn't tell me the name of the comic. He told me the name of the creator. This guy sells things. It was Jinju Ito, and all he does is like super violent horror comics, like to the point where like he has his own shelf at the store, and like he doesn't like kids don't buy that. Like he was like it would give children nightmares, but it sells constantly. He's like, I just sold like a bunch of volumes yesterday to somebody. Like it just constantly sells no matter what, and it's like a gore horror comic. And then he said for kids, My Hero Academia, which is very popular according to the internet. But yeah, so even in America, I think some of the best-selling manga might be for adults. And maybe they're just not getting that from Vertigo or from whatever.
Yeah, here that's definitely a niche.
Yeah.
Thing. I don't know. There have got to be smarter people than us that have looked at this and said, "Hey, why can't we make some version of that work here?" And obviously, they've just run into a wall and failed. And I don't understand why. I would be curious to know what somebody like Corey thinks is the big difference between the two markets.
It's just gotta be perception and marketing.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it has to be a social perception sort of thing. I mean, you would think now of all the times, right? When Marvel Studios is the biggest thing in the fucking world, that if you have Chris Evans saying, yeah, comic books are cool, why aren't more people reading comic books?
Yeah, I think there's I honestly think I think one of the problems is the periodical. I mean, it's there for a reason, but it's hard to like walk around with in public. It doesn't look like a book, so it looks disposable. But you can't do like, let's say, I think like DC Marvel would be afraid to only release an X-Men comic every 3 months because the way publishing is.
Sure.
So they wouldn't want to do that.
I mean, you don't have to. I don't feel like it's an either or situation. I feel like you can still have your floppies. I don't understand why they would feel like they're locked into a specific distribution scheme. If you want to have your book every 2 weeks or every 4 weeks or whatever, do that. That's not going to stop you from putting out your collection every 3 months.
I think the collections are too expensive to be something you just buy to read. Like I think with manga it's something you can just read while you're
I wonder then what the publishing model is for manga stuff. How are the creators compensated? What are they compensated for when there's got to be a difference in the way they're produced and the price at which they're produced between here and there. I don't know. On the face of it, it makes no sense to me why it can't be the same. While you were talking about that, I was thinking Walking Dead is a black and white book, essentially. A horror book, not, not saddled with the stigma of superhero American comic book stuff. And it can't be a secret as to why it was so successful. Why can't more things be that?
That's
I mean, with as popular as we were watching the stupid fucking CBS cop shows at the bar, and there's a market for that stuff, the crime stuff, and
right.
Especially now with all the podcast stuff, the true crime garbage.
Yeah.
I don't understand why people will watch it on TV while they'll pay $25 to go see the movie, why they'll sit an entire weekend and binge watch a series on Netflix. But why not this?
There's got to be a correlation between price and perceived value for price. And it's probably printing in color, but American comics, superhero comics would never sell if they weren't in color. But, like The Walking Dead worked because it wasn't a superhero comic. But it's got to be price.
I don't know.
You're asking someone to pay.
I don't know. I feel like if I had $1 for every time I heard somebody say, I'd like to see a black and white version of blah, blah.
Yeah, but the only people who say that are comic book artists. So there'd be like 500 of us buying those comics. I definitely think it is like picking up a trade and flipping it over. Like, this looks interesting, flipping it over. $20. Do I want to give this a shot for $20? If it was smaller in black and white and I flipped it over and it said $5, I would for sure give it a fucking shot. I think part of its size, because nothing is the size of a comic. Magazines are bigger, books are smaller, especially paperback books. So it's very weird to someone who didn't grow up on it. It's a very weird object to hold in your hand and read if you've never read one. Whereas a manga trade is the size of a paperback book.
I want to see it. I want to see it. Right now, I want to see it. Marvel and DC have 80 years worth of back catalog stuff.
Yeah, and what they do is they release cool essentials that are black and white on
Stop
newsprint,
it.
But they're large.
Stop it.
Make them smaller.
No, yeah, knock it off. Yeah, go down, drop out the color.
Yeah.
Or you can even print it in grayscale. I don't know what the difference is printing wise between
right,
black and white and that. I imagine it's negligible, but I'm also a dummy. But yeah, I don't understand. They have all of this material that costs them nothing to produce.
Mm-hmm.
All they have to do is pay for printing.
Yeah. That's why Doc Unknown got a 200-something page hardcover from Dark Horse, because it cost them nothing except printing. Right.
So
yeah.
I mean,
and you already mentioned it. At the checkout at the grocery store. There's Archie digests. Those are only,
I imagine they're still there.
Those are only like $6 or $7. They're not $20.
That's too much.
Yeah, that is too much, especially for fucking Jughead. But yeah.
I want impulse buys. I want to go up and I want to get my gallon of milk and I want to look up and I want to see a digest size Daredevil Born Again. Be like, oh, $3 for 150 pages. I just throw it on the belt.
Yeah. Yeah. Corey was also telling me before, like, he does a lot of sales that are like, tourists come up here to Northern Arizona for fucking snow tourists and bullshit, clogging up my streets. Locals only, brah. But he does a lot of sales that way where, like, they just want to shut their kids up. People want to shut their kids up for 2 hours for the drive down to the valley. So they stop in because his sign just says comics in big letters. and he sells them comics for their kids, and I'm like, that's how comics should be available. But we've made them such a commodity now that you have to go to certain stores to get them. You can't just go to fucking Circle K or 7-Eleven, to pick up these
That's
kind
a
of
problem.
items.
The direct market's a problem.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean it's good for retail stores, but it's not good for the overall health of comics. Like I feel like when I was growing up, I could buy comics at Circle K and 7-Eleven, and I felt like way more comics sold then. Maybe I don't.
Yeah. I feel
know,
like the discussion we're having right now is not an industry discussion. This is a medium discussion.
Yeah, it's like
we're talking about the bigger picture. We're not talking about the comic book business. We're talking about the comic book format.
Yeah, like distribution and shit like that, and just the limitations of it. Like
illustrated stories.
To get further away from manga, like we have been getting, like I've never seen them at my local Walmarts, but the Brightwisers had those comics that were picked up and packaged and sold exclusively at like Walmarts. How well did they sell? Like I never seen one at any of my stores. I've never seen one in real life.
Yeah, I don't know. My interest is piqued though, and I don't think I've ever asked for any sort of interaction with the audience, but I would like something recommended to me. I would like a black and white manga recommended to me, because I want to put some, I want to dissect this thing. So I want something I can hold in my hands, something I might enjoy, and something that might just give me a little bit of insight as to why this works.
Yeah, my kids, when they were really, because I mentioned this before, but when they were growing up, they would never read Western comics. They only read manga. And they really loved like Naruto, and I would flip through the Narutos, and they're drawn great. Like the art's great. Like what's not to love? But for me, it's just not something I grew up on. So obviously, I'm not going to get into a comic made for like a 12-year-old. But
I wonder also, I guess, what the longest running manga is. Do they have serials the way we do? I mean, I can understand why somebody would walk into a shop and see Action Comics number 1017 and say, well, I'm not going to jump in obviously on issue 1017. I'm not going to know what the fuck is happening. It seems to me that with a lot of the ones you've mentioned anyway, and a lot of the more popular ones, is that they're sort of self-contained things, and I don't know, as far as like manga publishers, are there like something equivalent to the big two, or is it just it's just like a mess of creators just going in and say, this is what I got, I can give you 3 collections of this story, and then they finish it and then they go on and do something else?
Well, the biggest one is Shonen. Like I mentioned, and Shonen Jump still sells 4 million copies a month, 5 million copies a month of their anthology, and then they package it and then they sell the trades. But as far as like long running ones, I know Dragon Ball does this thing where they reinvent themselves every maybe like once a decade. So there was Dragon Ball, the main character was a kid. After that was Dragon Ball Z, the main character was grown up, he had kids of his own. After that was like Dragon Ball GT, which was like his grandkids and him. So it's repackaged, the art's a little crisper, it's a little newer, but it's the same. I mean, Dragon Ball has been in print essentially since 1984, and there's been like a shitload of games and cartoons and shit. So while it's Dragon Ball, they still like, it's new stuff. It's reinvented with the same characters, if that makes sense.
Sure.
They just age. I mean, there's been Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball GT, Dragon Ball Kai, Dragon Ball Super, Super Dragon Ball Heroes. And so every like however many years it revamps and redoes it, and
there's a new crisis every 10 years.
Yeah.
Well, I'm curious. I would like somebody to give me an idea of what I can check out. I do want something. Yeah, I do want something shitty. You know, I want like I don't know. I just want like the shitty, greasy cheeseburger version of one of these things. You know, I just want just a throwaway black and white collection. But I want something that somebody else personally recommends because they like it. I don't know. I'm intrigued, but I don't want to start at. I don't want a false sense of anything. I don't know what I'm asking for specifically. Then I just want an example of something that's super popular that I would be into at what I would consider like a bargain price.
I know that One Piece is about pirates, and the main character is like Mr. Fantastic. So you have your
I
shitty,
have no
stretchy.
interest in that
You
at
have your
all.
shitty, stretchy character.
No. Yeah, sorry, pass.
Naruto's about ninjas.
Pass.
Dragon Ball is about a family.
Yeah, pass on that.
Okay, well, I don't know what the fuck you want, because according to me, those are the only 3 manga that exist.
Right, that's the problem.
Yeah.
This is not a makeout beer. This shit's fucking up my breath. It's bothering me.
So we're not, neither one of us, this actually, the more I drank it, the red rice ale, the more I drank it, the more sour it became. So I would classify this as like a Western sour.
Huh. I'm not getting that. It's becoming more drinkable to me.
Oof.
Just in my mouth though, but the smell is still bothering me.
Oh, see, I went the opposite way. It got worse as it went on for me. But I will say the dye.
I haven't gotten into that yet.
It's interesting. It's interesting. I got about a third of it left, but as it warms up, it's becoming problematic. But that's not fair. All beers as they warm up, unless you're drinking like a imperial stout.
Beer is not good.
No, it needs to be served.
It's like generally,
right.
But that's a problem though. That's pinching your nose to have something ice cold.
Yeah, I mean, just don't be a bitch. Just drink it.
If you need to drink it ice cold to cover up the actual flavor of something, then it's not a good something.
No, but it is funny. In all the time and all the years I've been drinking beer doesn't taste great. Like if I give a beer a 5 on Untapped, it's a 5 ranked in its limitations of being a beer. It's not a goddamn milkshake.
Yeah, okay.
Like I'm not lining it up against a cookies and cream milkshake. I'm lining it up against other beers.
Let's talk about the manga of American beers then, and figure out why beer is so popular. For the price of a good beer,
mm-hmm.
for a sixer of bottles of or maybe not even bottles, whatever. If you're gonna go and get a 6-pack of Voodoo Ranger IPA or a nice Rogue selection or something,
mm-hmm.
Where's the better value? Is it there, or is it in a decent bottle of whiskey, or is it a handle of like bottom shelf gin that you can just mix in with some Kool-Aid or something?
Mm-hmm.
You're getting, by volume, you're probably getting the better value out of the bottle of something. Plus, I mean, you're getting obviously the higher ABV hit.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. I've actually put not a lot of thought into this, but some thought into this recently, because I need to cut carbs. I need to lose weight. Obviously, I'm not going to stop drinking because that would be ridiculous.
Yeah,
so
the world's a world.
Yeah. what world am I living in that I want to be sober in it all the time? But so yeah, the smart move financially is instead of buying a because even Miller Lite right now at most places is like $7.99 a 6-pack, unless you're buying a case. But if you're just buying a 6-pack, so let's say I'm gonna do a day of let's just say a day of me drinking while watching sports. I only drink a 6-pack. Let's make that assumption right off the bat. So a 6-pack of Miller Lite is gonna run me $8 plus tax, and it's gonna get me just slightly buzzed because it's Miller Lite. Whereas a $5.99 bottom shelf thing of gin with a little cranberry juice or something is going to get me, it's cheaper. It's going to get me more buzzed. I could throw some club soda in that to give it the bubbles. So that makes more sense financially, mentally, everything. But I just can't shake. There's something about I want a beer. If the sun's out and I'm watching a sporting event, I want a beer. I don't want a cocktail.
Okay, then we're getting into the same thing. We're getting into the I don't know what the word for it is. Like there's a cultural complacency with a can of beer. It's no muss, no fuss. You're not measuring anything out. You're not mixing.
Yes.
The trade-off is it's going to take longer to do the job you want it to do.
Yes.
And I feel like you're sacrificing a lot of the palate pleasure, reaching for a can of fill in the blank American lager.
Yeah, but I don't get palate pleasure from cocktails or...
Really?
Yeah, unless... I can't even... I guess I don't enjoy... There's certain things I enjoy palate pleasure. That's interesting. There's certain things I enjoy more than other things. Like I would rather have... Even though it tastes like shit, I would rather drink Coke Zero than drink water. Because I think water doesn't have a taste. But I don't like my soda mixed with whiskey. I don't like that either. I don't love beer. I'm trying to think. I mean, I would probably drink like a hot peach tea would be my palate pleasure drink.
Huh.
But it's not going to do anything for me. Or like a chocolate milk. An ice cold chocolate milk is better than any beer I've ever had in my life. But they don't do the job.
Right. Yeah, that's not going to make the day better.
Right. And I guess I should say that all of my... beer doesn't taste great, but I drink it because it's something I do or whatever. All that goes out the window after drink like 2, especially if the sun's out. Then I'm just slamming them and everything is glorious. But I think there's something about, so my problem is, and this is, we lost all of our listeners at this point. Sorry, listener. My problem is if I put a little club soda in with, or even a half a glass of club soda, a little bit of cranberry and some gin, that doesn't seem to hold its carbonation the way a beer will hold its carbonation through the entire bottle. And I want a bubbly carbonated drink. Like
okay,
one of my favorite.
Okay, that I can get.
Yeah, one of my favorite current drinks is just cranberry juice. I try to get the 5%.
Okay.
Artificially sweetened with champagne, and I love it. But yeah, it's a lot of carbs. A bottle of champagne is a fuckload of carbs. So yes. I might as well.
An important part of mouth or palate pleasure for you is the texture,
carbonation, like
right, the mouthfeel.
This beer still has a little head on it.
Yeah,
even this old. Whereas if this was club soda and juice and hard alcohol, it would be completely flat by now.
Okay. See, I generally don't have a problem with flat. I like the palate pleasure that I get from from bourbon is I like I take it neat, so I don't like it being cold. I want to experience it as God intended.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not going to put it in the freezer. I don't even like putting ice in it. If the distiller wanted it watered down, they would put more water in it. And yeah, I like the burn. I like it's got when it's got a little higher rye content. I like a drink that fights back a little bit.
I realized over the last year or so, especially because I couldn't go out to as many brewers as I wanted to and stuff like that, is I like experiencing new things because right around the corner could be the best beer I've ever had in my life. So I like going to new breweries. I like trying new beers. Like people have often told me, like, you know what you like. Like if you've had this and you rated it high, why don't you just buy this? And I'm like, because there could be something else I've never tried that it's like I don't take the same route to the grocery store every time.
Right. That's a debate I could argue the both sides of. Right. It's try new things or whatever. Conversely, I'm old enough and have tried enough things that I'm at the age where I'm aware of the time I have left. So
a couple of years.
I want to get the thing I know I'll enjoy.
Right. And that's
because the risk of me not enjoying a new thing is it's pretty great. So I should say the risk of me enjoying a new thing. The odds of that are lower than the odds of me it's 100%. That I'll enjoy the thing I know I enjoy.
Right.
So I'm going to get the thing I order all the time from this place because I know I'll enjoy it. I don't need to waste my time with the thing that I might enjoy.
Yeah, I hear you.
That was clumsy as fuck.
It was. I just looked at the clock. This has been a long episode.
I'm kind of digging this die though. I would put this in the not bad beers. Yeah, I'm not saying it's good.
Right. But it's a fun thing to try.
It's not bad. It's the Wonder Woman of beers. Yeah, palate wise though, it was no more offensive than a Coors or something.
Okay. So for our listeners, recommend any Japanese beers you like. Scott would like to read some manga. Preferably the cheapest manga you can find.
Give me something that's enjoyable for you. I want a personal recommendation. That's not one of the things you mentioned. I don't want Naruto or One Piece or One Punch Man or I don't want anything I've heard of.
Right. You want like a bespoke recommendation just for you. Someone who knows you so well.
Right.
Are there woodworking mangas? Are there cowboy mangas?
Woodworking cowboys.
Okay. All right. And I don't need any recommendations because this episode has been called The Japanese Palate Pleasure. He's Scott. I'm Ryan. I got to go to the bathroom, buddy. So send us home.
Yeah. Be well, everybody.
Congratulations on House of L.
Fuck yourselves.
Yeah.